Hi, welcome to another consonant analysis. Today I'm doing an analysis of Samuel Morse. Well, actually, no, it's actually of the Holy Bible because what I have here is Samuel Morse quoting the Holy Bible in the first ever Morse code transmission, which you may know about if you're old enough, or if you're not old enough, then you might not. Morse code is a type of language that was used for over 150 years, 160 years, in fact, up until the end of last century, and it was used by lots of people to transmit messages over long distances. It was the precursor to telephones and like what we've got now. We've got the internet, so we don't need it anymore. And so the extract that I've got for you is "What God hath wrought," and this is a quote from the Bible. And the interesting thing is that Samuel Morse chose this phrase to showcase his invention, his new invention, to Congress, to the American government, which in any case they just passed by it. They just thought of it as being rather nothing more than a curiosity, really, because they already had ways to transmit information, so they weren't really that much interested in it as a whole. And the thing that I point out in the one of the main points that I show in the analysis is that it's uncanny how accurate the analysis, the yield of the analysis is in matching his actual situation. It's very uncanny, and it almost goes to give credence to the fact that not only is everything is created in Arabic or can be measured in Arabic, anything in existence, but the veracity of this method, which I'm always trying to do, I'm always trying to highlight or showcase the fact that it is a bona fide method which verifies a unified theorem, a unified theory, and in fact that's the whole reason for this whole channel. Although it is interesting, the things that come out as well, and it's good fun to do, discovering new things, hidden things. So with regards to my interpretation for these 4 words, I put the subject invented a device based on prior works and underwent great struggles to promote his invention. And that about sums it up. It was a bit of a saga, really. And it didn't end when he'd actually perfected the device. The main reason for that was because he'd actually based his invention on prior work. So other people had actually been doing the work. And he just sort of in some cases, they'd actually produced machines as well, like his invention. And what he'd done is he just basically pipped them at the post, as it were. So, and that's something that that someone in an editorial in the New York Times from 1852, I think it was, September 14th, 1852, had basically said that. Said that, I'm just summarising it, that Morse had actually pipped everybody to the post, and there's no point in whining about it. He actually put the legwork in, and so therefore he deserves to be credited with the invention and, reap the benefits of that. So with regards to comments, I'll just go through them. The first one is competition. Morse became more involved in much litigation from other inventors regarding his machine. This is reflected vividly in the markers. And as if you go through that, it was basically like a fight. He had a fight on his hands, and it wasn't very pleasant. As it never is with these particular cases. You've got patents and, other inventors. People have invested lots of time and money in order to make money, because that's really what it's all about, isn't it? We've got to earn a living, and then somebody comes along and they essentially steal the idea, or they come up with the idea as well, and then all hell lets loose, basically. Point 2, emphasis. Given that the markers talk little of the actual invention in terms of the end user, who presumably is the most important person in business terms, there seems to be more an emphasis on managing the various threats inward and outward surrounding the invention. And indeed, that's the case. It's all about how he's actually managing the situation. It's not really about, somebody actually using it. And that's what you'd expect, So perhaps that was an issue, the fact that he wasn't so like emphasizing enough the benefits that it would have to the consumer. In the first instance, that was the Congress. He'd sort of like taken the big step of trying to get somebody to be interested in it, whereas all of these other inventors were just resting on their laurels, apparently, according to the New York Times. But it doesn't seem that he was very effective at doing that. So it seemed that a lot of his time was actually consumed on the wrong thing, or not on all the right things. And perhaps if he spent more time in customer focus, in, I don't know, demonstrating a particular use for it, real case usage, a real world usage, then, like for example, if you've got messenger boys that have to go a distance, or you've got to the postal service, there's danger because the packages can be intercepted, or you have to pay them. Whereas if you've just got one like telegraph operator that's using Morse code that can go great distances, that's a lot cheaper and it's more effective and it's quicker. But I presume by virtue of the fact that Congress as a whole, apart from I think one particular individual, they just weren't interested. They just walked away and saw it as a curiosity. Number 3, thought process. The markers indicate an internal struggle with the subject himself vis-a-vis his circumstances, which included self-doubt and the knowledge that he was working against opponents in the field, whom he was deliberately intending to exclude from his endeavours by beating them to Congress. Like I said, it was like first past the post. As it was, Congress largely passed by the invention as a curiosity, and little if nothing came from the subject's encounter with them. Point 4, money. Shabbiness and wasted money feature in the markers. It was known that the subject was always short of money, was always short of cash. Perhaps the clothing is a reference to how he perceived himself generally, and more specifically in the presence of Congress. So it's self-conscious. He's actually got to go before Congress. He doesn't have a lot of money, but he's doing his best, and will they accept it? And he had that. I read from articles about him that he really did have doubts about his own invention, and that mirrors other inventors that I've done analysis for, like for example, Alexander Graham Bell. He did so many iterations or did so many rehashes of his invention, the telephone, that it was a great surprise at the end. When he said, Dr. Watson, can you, I need you. Oh, I can't remember the exact phrase. But when it actually got transmitted into the other room, there was like adulation, that it actually worked. So these inventors, that invent these novel new things, they generally seem to have this like self-doubt. And perhaps that's a good thing as well, because that's what spurs them on to actually do the work that they do. Point 5, immersion. The marker component because it does exist in the markers, may allude to immersing Congress in the subject's invention, which the subject knew he must do, or to immersion in the litigation that he knew surely would follow, or both. 6, the Bible, and I've mentioned this in the beginning that I'll go over it again. The extract is actually a quotation from whoever translated the version of the Bible that Morse grew up reading, because I think his father was in the church. He was like a preacher or something like that, connected with the church anyway. So this is not actually his words, it's not Morse's words, but merely a quotation. Having said this, he chose the quotation for this particular event to showcase his invention. Given that the consonant analysis seems to correlate to a high degree with the subject and his situation, it lends credence to the idea that subconsciously the subject was aware of the consonant analysis for this particular phrase. Otherwise, why use it? And further, the hypothesis that not only humans and the human psyche, but by extension all existence can be measured and is measured in Arabic, which is one of my hypotheses, that what this channel is all about. It just seems strange that he chose something which actually matched his situation out of all the quotes in the Bible. And it's not something which is, I suppose it's relevant. I don't know actually the context of that in the Bible, but yeah, it's something which God has allowed to occur. This, in other words, this new invention. So it does fit, but on a deeper level, he actually fits his situation as well. As we go on to in the themes. So point number 7, character. The subject was characterized by one of his contemporaries as being almost childlike in his honesty and a poor judge of character. Now I don't know exactly how true that is across the board, because this is just one person, and really that's the person that actually took interest in his invention from Congress. He was apparently the only person that did, and this person was actually rebutting somebody, a lawyer who'd actually realised the potential of this new invention and wanted to become involved with Morse financially, but Morse had refused. And then ever after that, this lawyer became very abusive, and whenever he wrote to Morse, he was very derisory and very unkind tone that he wrote. So this person from Congress actually rebutted that. He felt the need to rebut it, and he wrote, either in a periodical or newspaper, he actually wrote about Morse's true character, i.e. that he was a nice, gentleman. Having said that, he was very ambitious, because he was, obviously he was working on prior art. But if nobody else is taking up the gauntlet, why should they complain when somebody else does? So point 8 in the notes comments is today. That's i.e. today, now, this day and age. While the last telegram was sent on July the 14th, 2013, it was in India. Just over 169 years since Morse sent the first message in Congress, the US Navy removed the requirement for Morse code in 1999, and it's no longer taught to cadets. So it's a bit sad, really. But it's gone from the world now as Morse code. Nobody uses it. Instead, we use the internet. Although apparently, according to one article I was reading, the Morse code was more revolutionary than the internet has been. And I don't know, I can't really say, but I find that hard to believe, really, with the things that the internet gets used for, and they get shoved down it each day. So with regards to the markers, we'll just go over the themes. I did a reverse and forwards analysis, and if you're new to my channel, a forward analysis is where I look at the consonants, and I extract the consonants from somebody's speech or text, and then what I do is I put them in. I read them in the order that they come. A reverse analysis is where I take the consonants and I reverse them and then I read them. And the reason why I do this is because, from experience, reversing the consonants tends to give an underlying meaning which is intended by the speaker, but which is different from what you actually read. However, to get more information, and if I've got like a short extract, there's no harm in doing a forwards analysis, because that usually yields something consistent with the message also. So for markers in reverse, I've got themes. I've got the invention. So these are just keywords: bending, repetition, and translation. The marker for bending exists in the markers, and if you look at the device, it's actually, there is actually a bend. The armature there's actually a bend there, and then there's two contacts on that which the operator presses down, so they actually come together. But there's like a spring type mechanism. So, and that really is the essence of the device, the console or the button. That's the essence of it. So I just put that down as referring to that because it is specific. It's a specific thing, and it cuts through pretty much the whole of the marker as well. Because usually markers, you've got like different components. but that seems to be a main component, so I left it in. I did actually look at the device. I mean, I use the internet now on keyboard, so I had to look at it and see what it looks like, and it does appear to have something like some sort of bent metal or something like that. Number 2, Morse. So these are keywords with regards to Morse that came out of the reverse analysis. So you've got abandonment, determination, marketing, poverty, reward, self-doubt. 3 for themes on the subject of Congress, reward and titillation. So he was expecting reward from the Congress, and it just basically titillated them. It's just a curiosity piece, a museum piece, or a circus piece, a sideshow. 4 competitors. So the keywords that I put under the heading of competitors were anger, assault, exclusion, incrimination, and prevention. Moving on to the markers forwards, the themes that I've got for Morse are ambivalence, deception, defense, domesticity. It seemed as though he was, because there was some markers with regards to like having breakfast, having lunch, and someone's hair. And in my mind, the way that I looked at that was that the morning he went out to Congress, he'd had his breakfast and he was sat chatting with his wife. That's the way I interpreted it, because those markers are specific, and I don't see how they could mean anything else. So that's domesticity. Harm, misery, prattling, and vileness. Now, with regards to vileness, that you see, this is the thing. It's a juxtapose from this character reference that the man in Congress gives him as a rebuttal to what the lawyer was saying about Morse. But you do wonder, you see, it's like, for example, with Edison, it does come across in his analysis that there's like skullduggery that's going on. And I can imagine it's not all sweetness and light with these types of things. There must be some sort of like despicable element to what's going on. I mean, in normal times with human beings, you tend to find that, they're good and bad. They've got a mixture. We're not all sweetness and light. We've got like a bit of a dark side as well, which we try to moderate. So I don't imagine it would be any different in this particular case, and especially in this specific area, where you expect that type of thing. And it, like I said, it does occur in the markers. So I don't imagine it was with regards to his competitors, because they were just competitive. They might have been obstructive and obtuse and these types of things, but they had no need to resort to being vile or despicable because of the fact he was the one that was allegedly doing that. Number 2 for markers forwards, with regards to the invention, there's mention of stretching, literally stretching rope or a musical string, this type of thing. And now the way his invention worked was he stretched a wire from one point to another point, and I think the first wire that he installed to demonstrate or showcase the invention to Congress was it was 10 miles. The wire was 10 miles long, and I think it went from, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know Washington was one of the places. So he stretched the wire, so that comes up in the markers. And then intermittence. There's a marker specifically for intermittence, intermittent intervals, continuously, and that's essentially what Morse code is. It's da 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 like this. It's continuous. So I put that under invention because I can't see how it would fit anything else. Competitors, we've got blame and censure, which is indeed what we got. So that's it all in all. The invention by Samuel Morse, it was an arduous journey that he undertook to get this invention in the world, and he eventually managed it after much trials and tribulations, and he managed to die old, successful, and like with a long beard. He apparently eventually took to growing a long grey beard, which made him look like a wise man. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. If you like the analysis, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Please do, please do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next analysis.